All right, my name is Rich Schmidt. We're here with Erin Brooks. It's July 25th, 2024. We're in Linfield University, McMinnville. And Erin, thank you so much for joining us today. First question, get things started. Why wine?
Oh, I love wine. I did not grow up with wine whatsoever. This is a very long story. Okay, so I do remember the first time I had wine, though. I was like yay tall, and my mom had some white wine in a little water glass. I'm pretty sure it was Franzia, and I took a big gulp because I thought it was water. I was like, this is horrifying. So, I was not a very big drinker at all. Yeah, it wasn't really like part of our family whatsoever. I grew up in North Carolina. So I went to college in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I got out there, I studied creative writing and political science. So I was always a writer to begin with, always wanted to be a writer. And I graduated college in '07, right as the economy was crashing, and I had no idea how to make a living as a writer. And my father-in-law at the time said, you should go, just go to a restaurant, find the nicest restaurant you can, do your hair, do your makeup, and just go in and tell them, you know, you'll do whatever they want. So that's what I did. And I started out as a bar back. I was like, 21 or 22. And within a year, I was running that restaurant. I was bartending and running the restaurant. And the other bartender at the time says one night, he says, don't leave. We're going to have something after work. Don't leave. Okay. And he poured some wine. And he said, I know you're a college student and you just want to chug it and get drunk, but, you need to smell it. And so he was, so I said, okay. So I smelled it, and I had this total Proustian moment where it smelled like honeysuckle, which grew over the fence in my backyard as a kid. And it was just like total fireworks, mind-blowing. And I said, oh my God, it smells like honeysuckle. He said, it's Viognier. It was a Dariouche Viognier. So that was the very first time I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, actually. So his name was Patrick. He started to get me into wine, and I thought, well, it would be really cool if I could write about wine, because I wanted to be a writer since I'm 8 years old. So that's how it all got started. I was in restaurants just trying to make money. I didn't know how to, make a living or do anything as a writer, really. I didn't learn much about business in college. I learned how to be creative, but I didn't learn how to, make a living. So yeah, I ended up in restaurants and I started studying. I went with the quartermaster sommeliers and took my intro and took my certified. Eventually I took advanced a couple times before I got a little bit sick of that and let that go. And also that organization has some problems, sorry. And then at the same time I was doing WSET, and I went through diploma with WSET, and we're talking a long time, right? I did all this, over years, but I ended up being in restaurants for 10 years. And I just got more and more into wine, kept studying. It was never boring. It was always exciting. I really liked to learn, get to meet all kinds of cool people. Obviously you get to drink cool stuff and eat cool stuff, talk to cool people. So I was just like, man, this is great. This is awesome. I want to do this for sure. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And I still love it. It never got boring for me. And I'm currently in the Master of Wine program, so I'm still studying. One of these days, I will have no tests on the burner. It's the last one. It's the last test, so we'll see. We'll see if I can get that studying in. It's really hard to find time as an adult to commit to studying the way you did as a young person. But that's what I'm trying to do. So you asked if I have hobbies and other things. No, I really don't. It's all wine. It's a little bit crazy, but yeah, it's all wine. I'm always thinking about wine, talking about wine, reading about wine. I like it. I like it a lot.
All right, let's back up a minute. We'll come back to all that. You mentioned growing up in North Carolina. Tell us about life before wine. Tell us about kind of early life and path into college.
I was just a regular old kid. I just ran in the woods. I have two brothers, an older and a younger, so I was pretty it was running through the creek and running through the woods and going to the tree house and playing war and all of those things with the boys. I went to high school. It was, school's hard when you're young, I think, and my school was, it was kind of a poor school, so it was tough. Teachers bought their own paper and their own chalk, and it was one of those situations. School was hard, but I knew that I didn't want to stay in North Carolina. There's a lot of racism. It's not very liberal the way they think. it's just not for me. You know, it's a wonderful place, it's a wonderful state to grow up in, but I was like, I got to get out of here. So I applied to a whole bunch of different colleges. I got accepted to a bunch of colleges in the South, but I was like, oh, this is bad. You know, I have to get out of here. I don't want to be in the South. So I got an advertisement in the mailbox one day for the College of Santa Fe. And I was like, man, this looks really sunny. You know, I didn't know where it was, no clue where it was, but it was, you know, a couple thousand miles away, and it looked really sunny, and they had a creative writing program. So I applied, had never been out there, got accepted, literally begged on my hands and knees for more scholarships so that I could do it, and told my parents, like, all right, I've got loans, I've got scholarships, like the amount that you would help me with is the equivalent of a state college. And just got on an airplane and went. So, and I loved it. It was fantastic. Yeah.
What were your first impressions of Santa Fe?
Oh my God, I cried. So when I got out there, and it was all, like, the campus was all dirt, which growing up in North Carolina, you're like, oh, this is bad news. You know, this looks really kind of grungy. But, it, you know, I didn't know it was the desert, right? So yeah, I immediately cried and thought, what have I done? I've made a huge mistake. And then we went on, my mom and I, she came with me, we went on a train out into the middle of the desert. And I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. This place is amazing. And I just loved it. I stayed there for 13 years. I love New Mexico. It's still, I consider it my home. I miss it a lot. Yeah, I miss the desert. I do.
Tell me about the college experience and about the creative writing program.
Ooh, college was so much fun. I went to a very unusual school called the College of Santa Fe, which is no longer open, which is crazy. Probably because there were like only 1,000 kids there, right? So there were very few students, big theater program, music program, and writing program, classic like liberal arts college. So, you know, and being from the South, I hadn't met that many types of people. So it was really cool to go to the desert and just meet all kinds of people from all over the place, and they're all artists. It was just so cool for me. So yeah, the writing program was spectacular. Dana Levin is a poet that I still love. She was one of my professors, and I mean, I credit them with my ability to write. You know, they taught me a lot. They put me through my paces. We would do like roundtables. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't a class where someone was lecturing and you're, you know, taking bubble tests or anything like that. It was, you would go in, bring your work, give it around, and everyone would edit it, and you have to sit there and take it, right? Like, just sit and take it, whatever they have to say about it. So that was my college experience. And on the political science side, it was the same way. We would get into a round table, you know, read Kant or whatever, and then get into a round table and discuss this stuff. So it was really very open-minded. It was so creative. It was a very unusual college experience, I think. I don't think a lot of people have an experience where they're in this tiny, small community and just given total free rein to be creative and be an artist. My first class, actually, I love this. My first class was called Maps, and it was 9 credits. 9 credits. It was 3 days a week, like 3 hours, 3 days a week. It was English, science, and art therapy. So I go to this art therapy class the first week, and this amazing woman, I think her name was Wendy, she had us all lie down on big brown sheets of paper. We traced ourselves, and we had to make like body maps and future maps and all this weird stuff. And then she took us into like some hypnosis journey. I mean, and I'm just laying there like, this is crazy. Like, this is my school. It was amazing. Yeah, it was really pretty neat. So I loved my college experience, and I can't believe it's been like a long time now. I'm really getting old. But yes, I love my college, yeah.
So you obviously talked about you wanted to be a writer going into that. You were majoring in creative writing. You graduated at an interesting time to try to make it right. What did you think as you were in school? What did you think you might do? What did you hope to write about or think or dream you might do with your degree?
I don't think I really knew. I think that when I was really young, I knew I wanted to be an artist. Somehow, as a little, 5-year-old, I'm going to be an artist. And I tried to draw, and it was a disaster. I hated it so much. I couldn't do it. So I ended up trying writing at some point. I wrote my first little book when I was in 2nd grade, and I got so excited about it. It's My Lost Chameleon. I illustrated it. So anyway, yeah, that's right. I was young, And I started writing, and I was like, oh, this is it. You know, this is what I want to do. Just since I was 8 years old, I've kept a journal of and it's almost like a compulsion. I just have to do it. I'm just like driven to write. I wash my hair in the shower, and I'm like thinking about sentences, and I'm driving, and stuff's flowing through my brain, and I would have to pull over and write it down. You know, I have journals like for my entire life. It was just something like I just had to do. So I think my idea going into college, I had a vision of myself in a little room, little casita with a fireplace and a bunch of books, and I don't know what I would have been writing about, but that's what I envisioned. And when I became a wine writer for The Wine Advocate, it was very strange because it's like, oh, I want to do interviews, so take your photograph and do events and blah, blah, blah. And my conception of being a writer was like, no, I'm supposed to be in a room by myself. I don't like to like go out and do those other types of things. So yeah, no, I don't think I knew. I just knew that I loved it and that I had to do it. It was absolute compulsion. And even when I was working in restaurants, I was writing articles for the local paper and, you know, Edible Santa Barbara. I was trying my best to get published in any way that I could so that I could build a portfolio. So I never let it go. But no, I did not know what I was going to do. But like I said, when I went to work in that nice restaurant and I discovered wine, I was like, oh my God, this is what I should write about, right? Because I studied poetry and creative nonfiction, so like Joan Didion. I love her. So I wanted to write nonfiction or poetry, obviously. And so when I found poetry is so hard, it's so rough. I don't know how you make a living doing that either. But yeah, the wine, I thought, oh, I could totally do that, right? So it just seemed like I can do that, right? I can make that happen. But it took 10 years. It took a long time. So it was not easy. It's still not easy. You really got to work hard and, you just put your time in, but don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Let's talk about the restaurant path first before we dive into the writing. You mentioned kind of having a fast track going from kind of our back to running the place pretty quickly. Tell me about the restaurant experience for you and about learning the trade, about learning what you needed to learn and how the wine fit in.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what path is traditional in restaurants. I was in New Mexico, right? So there's limited places to work. I worked at a place called Geronimo. It was very fancy. So that was my introduction to restaurants, was the fine dining and the bartending. I started learning how to make drinks. The bartender got me into wine. I started studying wine. But I bartended for a long time and was the manager at that place for a long time. Then I went to a little cafe, Pasquale's in Santa Fe, which is still there, which I love. Catherine Cagle is the owner and chef. She's awesome. And so that was a totally different vibe, right? It was like 3 or 4 of us working a night. It was 15 tables only in this place, and there's a line all the time out the door. You have to lock the door after lunch in order to reset for dinner. Like you have to. It was insane. So I was running that restaurant. You stand at the front. You have a literal book with pencil and paper to fill in tables and to try to finagle this way and that way. Big community tables, so people just walking in. So that was a whole different experience. Then I moved to Napa to work for Thomas Keller. So that was me thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm in restaurants and I want to do wine, so I should go into, something like a really fine dining type of thing. So I did Ad Lib, which was the French Laundry pop-up, which was so much fun. It was in the Silverado Resort. Again, totally different experience, right? You're wearing a French Laundry suit. You're working with French Laundry people, except that TK has the volume maxed out. He wants it to be fun and energetic because it's not TFL, right? So that was a whole other kind of combination of super strict service, but also a lot of fun. And that's when I first met him. He I was standing at a table. We had this cart, and you would do Caesar salad table side. So I'm over there, doing this, and I felt this presence, and I look up, and he's super tall, and I was like, oh, there's Thomas Keller, Oh my God. And he kind of subtly just sort of bumped me out of the way and took over and started showing me how to do this table side, but he was putting on a show for the table and really for me, and all of us were like, hello, oh my God, it's so amazing. So it was really neat. That was a really cool experience. And then I went from there and worked because that place closed because it was a pop-up. And then I went to Bouchon and ran the beverage program there. That was really hard. The thing about fine dining, especially in Napa, I think these famous chefs they can get anyone they want whenever they want, right? There's always somebody hungry and young who wants to get into the business just like me. So if you're not willing to work, 80 hours a week or whatever, or stay all night to do inventory or so on and so forth, goodbye, right? So I went from there and I tried the restaurant at Meadowood, which was 3-star, and that was horribly traumatic. It was really, really an awful experience. So the 3-star experience with Thomas was great, but when you work with these chefs who are screaming and cursing at you and totally breaking you down and making fun of the way you look, making fun of the way that you walk or talk or carry a napkin, super, super traumatic. And that's when I had also turned, I was in my early 30s and I just thought, that I can't do this. No. My patience for that is really low. So that's when I was like, I have to make a change, And so I was really like desperate. Like, I really want to be a writer. What am I doing right now? I don't want to be here getting screamed at by some, manager or chef. So I started looking, and started applying. And it was really funny because I saw an advertisement for an editor at a wine publication. That's all it said, editor at a wine publication. Oh, okay, cool. But I don't want to be an editor. So I didn't apply. And then a friend of mine, like a week later, a friend of mine sent me the same ad. And she said, oh my God, this looks just like you. You should totally do this. And I thought, all right, well, that's a sign from the universe, right? Like, okay, fine. And so I applied. Didn't know, I don't know what I'm applying for, but I just sent it in, my resume, and I got an email back the next day from Lisa Perotti Brown, who's a master of wine, asking me to come in and meet with her at, the Wine Advocate. And I was like, oh, wow, oh my God, okay. And so I went and met with her, and she said, well, we've already got an editor, but we need a new reviewer. Are you interested? I was like, absolutely, I'm interested, 100%. So that was it. She hired me, and I credit her with, she didn't have to hire a young woman, right? You know what I'm saying? The wine industry is still all about men. Our audience is still old white men. And she didn't have to go out and look for someone young and inexperienced, and she took a big chance on me, so I really credit her a lot. And she pushed me also to take the Master Wine exam, and so talk about mentors, like huge mentor for me. And I hope I can be someday the type of person who can also bring in young people. You know what I mean? It's just we got to change. We got to make some changes in this business.
So parallel to this, obviously you're learning about wine and you're engaging with wine in a variety of ways. Obviously you're studying it, you're selling it, so tell me about, you mentioned something, it's something you always want to learn about. You're always excited to learn. So tell me about the process of learning it for you. What do you find engaging about it, and what has been exciting to learn along the way?
Well, what's most engaging for me is that you can't learn everything. You're never ever going to get to the top of that ladder. I guess I like to climb ladders. I like to always have a goal in mind or something that I'm working towards. Well, what keeps me engaged is that, like I said, you never can learn everything. You can always keep moving. You can always keep going. And for me also, I didn't grow up like traveling or doing anything like that. And so taking those classes became a little sneaky way for me to travel. So like I took some WSET classes in New York. I took some in Orange County because I live in the middle of the desert, right? There's nothing there. So I would use it as a tool to go places, to visit places I'd never been. So that to me was super exciting, to be able to travel and learn. And then also the people that you learn from. I remember in Orange County, it was Peter Neptune. What a character, you know what I mean? So it's just all these people you meet who are such characters, who come from the craziest backgrounds, right? These are not kind of like me, right? Like they never were into wine, and they came from, I don't know, financial or whatever. But I like to learn from those people. How did they do what they did, right? Maybe I can do that as well. So that's kind of what's kept me engaged still to this day, right? Like, it's weird to be on the other side because I usually just interview winemakers all day. I really like to ask questions and to talk to people and to see, like, hear about their lives, you know what I mean? So I'm used to being on the other side of this because I love it. I love to hear about what, you know, people have crazy stories when you really get them talking. So yeah, that's a huge part of, it's not just wine, it's not just the liquid and the beverage, it's the culture and the people that you get to interact with, I think is really, really special. And that keeps me engaged all the time. So that's part of the reason why I still go to wineries. I don't sit in rooms to taste, no way, I don't like it, I tried it, no. I go to 3 wineries per day, wherever I am, and talk to people and visit with people. You know, I want to look at the winery, I want to see the vineyard. You know, people can say whatever they're going to say, but do you believe that, right? As a journalist, so you need to go out, you need to look, you need to talk to people, you need to walk the vineyards for work and for Master of Wine, right? So again, it's just every single day I learn something, and it's just like, it's just awesome. Every day I learn something new, literally, and that's part of what keeps me like, no, I really like my job because it's never boring. It's always different. I always am meeting new people, and I literally learn something new every day. It's amazing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm very lucky. Yeah, because people are fascinating. You learn so much, you know, from talking to people, and maybe they made a mistake that you can avoid. You know, maybe they did something super smart that you never thought of. They have different perspectives. I'm always talking about, my friend and I always talk about reframing, you know, because I have kind of like an Eeyore mind all the time. So looking for ways to reframe and talking to people who are not like you can really help to bring, you know, a different perspective to the way you think. Because we can all get like deep into ourselves and deep into our, you know, personal turmoil and stuff. So it's good to go out and have different perspectives from different people across all walks of life.
So you mentioned earlier, obviously, the shift from New Mexico to Napa in your career, an interesting shift. So tell me about being in Napa for the first time, and what was the culture like? What was it like to be there?
Not super friendly, I will say. I love it now, but when I first went there, like I said, I was in fine dining. It's extremely competitive. You're always, you know, there's always somebody right behind you waiting to get in. And I don't like competition, so it was really uncomfortable, the competitiveness. It's also like a really small community, and if you're not from a wine background, you're not super welcomed in. Do you know what I mean? It's people, yeah, I don't think it was like this, it was more of like, oh, here's the sommeliers, you know, you have to fight to be part of that group, and here's the, you know, set of writers, like forget about being in that group, and yeah, it was pretty hard. I mean, there's always lovely people and nice people and mentors all along the way, but it was hard for me to feel like I was part of any kind of community at all. I mean, like when I joined my first tasting group, I had a friend that helped me get into this group, and it caused a huge uproar because people had been on a waiting list to get into this group, and why is she here, and blah, 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 right? So no, I did not feel very welcome, and it felt like, whoa, what is all this? And it's still, to some degree, like I never get to talk to other wine writers or reviewers, and it's very weird to me. Like, aren't we all in the same business? Do you know, like, so yeah, I don't like that aspect of wine, and Napa has it a little more than other places because it's the Mecca, super competitive, everyone's going there for the same reason, right? So I just try to, when new people come to town, I'm like, hey, let's, you know, come here and meet so-and-so and do this, because I had, you know, a few people do that for me, and that's the only way I was able to get in. So yeah, it was tough, but as I've lived there almost 10 years now. It's crazy. And now I feel good. You know, now I feel like I'm part of the community. I have friends. I have good friends that I know are good people. There's always, like, you just surround yourself with good people in life. So I've been able to do that, and it's been really nice. And I live right downtown, so it's a lovely little town. It's right by the park. It's a teeny tiny little, I live in like a studio apartment, but it's just me and my cat, and I work, and I, you know, walk around downtown, and it's great. Yeah, it's really lovely. So I like it a lot better now than when I first moved there. Like especially coming from New Mexico, where everyone's an artist, everyone's like doing their own cool, crazy stuff. And then you go to Napa and you're like, where's your suit? You know? God, no. Yeah, so it was like, oh dear. Yeah, it was a little, I didn't fit into that scene very well, that fine dining, like, you know, the suit, and you gotta be your makeup and your hair all the time, and yeah, that wasn't the scene for me. So now that I'm not in that scene, it's all good.
Let's talk about the wine education aspect for a little bit. You obviously mentioned you've been taking tests all the time.
God.
So let's talk about the core and WSET and now the MW program. What's been the driver for you to continue to get all these kinds of education, and what have been sort of the experiences for you in the various programs?
I mean, the driver is always learning. I just like to learn. I like to read. I like to learn. I like to write. I'm always studying. I'm just a dork, I think. You know, I'm just a nerd, right? I just like that. I've always liked school. I just like it. WSET has been great. I think it's an excellent program. They really do a good job, and they get people from all ranges of knowledge. So the introductory courses are so wonderful if you're just getting into wine. They have incredible instructors, and the program is very organized. It's very understandable. It's very easy to say, okay, I'm gonna take level 1. This is my requirement. Okay, level 2, you have to do X, Y, Z. They have amazing books as well that you get for each like level. And I still keep those because they're fantastic. Like, what if I need to write a little blurb about, you know, Piedmont? I'll totally like, okay, how did they write their blurb in this book? And let me, you know, I still use those all the time. So I think it's an incredible educational program. And they also, it also addresses business and the wine trade, which is something that was really lacking in the Court of Master Sommeliers. That was a different experience for me. Like I said, I'm not maybe the fine dining type. I'm also very clumsy. So that was a personal challenge. But going to the advanced level, I did it a couple times. And the second time I took it, the test, they were unprepared. People were asking questions during the exam because the questions were written so poorly. The instructions were not clear. It was awful. It was a terrible experience. And on top of that, the sexual harassment from those people. It's all men. And here's the example I can always give people between the two programs. They've been around both since like the 70s, right? One program, the Master of Wine, or WSET, is blind. You're a candidate number, okay? It's more than half women who are Masters of Wine. It's a blind test. Court of Master Sommeliers, same thing. There's 29 women? And it's not a blind test. This is a big problem. Do you know what I'm saying? So, no. I just, at some point, was like, this is stupid. Why am I spending money on this? And they're unprepared, and it's obviously, there's something going on. This is not, you know, a totally fair exam if there's only 29 women. And then the cheating thing happened, and it just on and on and on. And I thought, oh, you know, I'm not gonna represent this anymore. So I'm a somm, I have my little certified pin, it's great. I learned a lot, don't get me wrong, and there's amazing mentors in that program, but I just don't, I'm not gonna give my support to that kind of a system at all. So that's why, you know, Master Wine also is writing based, and I'm a writer, so it's a lot deeper. You know, on the Court of Master Sommeliers, you're gonna have 6 wines. It's a pretty limited amount that you're gonna choose from. I hung all the possibles on my wall, and you learn them, and then that's it, right? And you can get pretty good at that. On the other side, Master of Wine, they're less concerned with figuring out what it is, like tell me, you know, the grape and the vintage. They'll say something like, you know, you have to use evidence from the glass to tell me where you would sell this, who you would sell it to. Stuff like that, where you really have to think deeper into what you're tasting. How accurate is your tasting? Are you picking up sugar? What's your, where are you calibrated? And I have to also pick out evidence from the glass and use my writing to prove what I'm trying to say. And it's more about, they're grading almost like your argumentation, like show your math, right? So this to me is more interesting, it's more valuable. Even if I never pass the Master Wine exam, it's made me a better writer. It's made me a deeper thinker. So to me, it's just a deeper, better kind of a thing. It's not for everyone, I totally understand that. It's really, really like heavy on the writing. And that's really tough, right? For an average like sommelier or someone who's not into writing, that's really, really hard. So I totally understand that that's not everyone's jam. And I think the Quartermaster sommeliers, it's good that they're teaching service, and I think they're finally starting to teach some business stuff as well. So it's a fine program if you want to be in restaurants, but again, it's all dudes, and if you're not white and not male, then you might have some problems there. So, yeah.
So with the Master of Wine program specifically, how have you studied for that? How do you study for a test that is that I guess kind of open to interpretation?
Totally, and there's no teaching, right? It's all self-taught. So that's a really good question. I'm still figuring that out, to be quite honest. I keep pushing the test back because it's so difficult to find the time to study as an adult with a job. I think what is really good for me is that I'm so lucky because my job is studying all the time. I'm constantly talking to winemakers. If I have any type of technical question, I can totally go find out. I meet people who are business, who are marketing. I can totally go ask them if I have questions, because the theory is divided into viticulture, vinification, bottling and quality control, wine business, and contemporary issues. So you've got, 2 or 3 essays for each topic. So you have to understand sulfur as well as you need to understand climate change. So it's very broad. But I think, yes, there has to be some formal studying, and like, for example, you need to memorize your sugar levels for fortified and sweet wines, right? What's your atmospheres for XYZ type of sparkling? So there's things that, yes, you do need to really sit down and study, but mostly for me, it's just being out in the wine world all the time, writing all the time. And then, so what I now need to do is, make a fishbowl full of essay topics and start practicing hour, because the time is the other thing, because you have 1 hour for an essay, that's it. So you got to be able to, like, if I pick sulfur out of there and I can't write the full essay, and if I've missed an important topic or something, right, we need to look at that. So that's what needs to happen now, is that I need to make sure my calate's perfectly calibrated. I have trouble with sugar a lot, so I need to work on that. I need to taste, lateral wines against each other, things that I commonly mix up. I need to work on strengthening my arguments. If I'm going to say it's Burgundy rather than, California, and it's a lighter style, what's my evidence going to be, right? So I need to really work on my argumentation, being super fast at tasting, super fast at writing, and making sure that I understand the topics on a level that I can put it back to you in an hour. So I've been in the program a while, but I've taken all that time to figure out, what are they looking for? What do they want to see in an essay? What do they want for an answer? Because you can't take a test unless you understand that part, right? That's number one, for me at least. How am I going to pass this test? So you have to really look at how they're grading. You got to read the examiner's reports. Any kind of information that's on their website that you can get a hold of, you got to get it. So that's where I'm at right now. I do all the wine stuff every day, all day, but I'll need to put in some actual time of, like, pound out that essay. Did you miss something? Go fix it. Go figure it out. And so that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's really a lot of work. I know that it's a passable exam. It's 100% passable. It's just a lot of time and work. So that's where I struggle, is trying to find the balance in the day. Like, I'll go around to wineries all day today, and then I'll have a dinner, and then I'll go home. When am I supposed to study on a day like today? It's just really hard for me to find the time. So that's my biggest challenge, is trying to figure out how can I work in like 2 hours of studying per day to make sure that I'm being consistent and hitting everything that I need to hit before June in the test. So honestly, balance is my largest problem, is balance, because I'll work all day, and it's like, because I love my job and it's super valuable to me, and that comes first. So the balance is tough.
You can find like a non-wine hobby, like restoring classic cars or something, just completely out of the ordinary, and it's not wine.
I totally don't have any other hobby. It's ridiculous. People ask me that all the time. What do you do outside of wine? I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
Just outside?
What? I really don't. I mean, I like to read. I actually gave myself permission to read a novel. I'm getting through that novel. That to me is like so awesome. Oh, spend time to read a novel, like something that's not studying. Wow, yeah. I mean, so that's what I do when I'm not doing wine, is I'm probably like hanging out with my cat or reading. I'm pretty boring. Not much going on.
It's amazing.
I like wine though, so yeah.
Well, let's talk about writing about wine then. You mentioned that it was something you immediately thought of, and when you were excited about wine, I got to write about this. So tell me about, before being hired on at the Wine Advocate, tell me about the building of your kind of wine writing career, your wine writing portfolio. Ooh. How did you go about it? What did you find interesting to write about?
I was writing about the local food scene in Santa Fe. I thought it was great. Santa Fe is like a big foodie town, actually. They have some really incredible restaurants. So there's a magazine. Anyway, there was a really cool local magazine, and I was writing for that magazine, just doing, for $50, right? Write this article of 1,000 words or whatever. But it afforded me the opportunity to go to the restaurant, have a meal, and sit down with the chef, which was really cool for me. It's just like wine, right? Food, same. Very fascinating. So yeah, I was doing basically what I do now, but on my own for no money. And because you have to, right? I had to make my money in restaurants to survive, and then I had to do tons of work for free, because nobody knows you. Nobody knows if you can write or not, And again, that was actually a woman as well. Her name is Patty. She took me on and let me write articles for their magazine. It was fantastic. So yeah, I would just find any kind of magazine, like the Edible Communities magazine. I wrote an article for them. I don't remember what it was about, but as many articles as I could pick up, regardless of any kind of payment, I would just do it, right? And then I think I had it all on a website, so that if you wanted to look, you could just check the website and see, okay, this is what she's written, to see that you've actually published something. And yeah.
What was interesting to write about? What did you focus on when you were writing about food and chefs and things like that?
What did I focus on? I think people's stories. I think for me it was the story, like where'd they come from? It might be a new chef from San Francisco, maybe. Well, what brought you here? What are you up to? Why did you come here? What kind of food are you making, and why? What's your beverage program and why? I like to do the interviewing and ask people all about themselves and where they come from and why they do what they do, and same. But I did exactly that. I just like to talk to people and hear their story. So it wasn't so much of like technical food writing or anything like that. It's just more of like a nice fuzzy story about a new place, a new restaurant, or an old one. A little bit more fluffy fuzzy. But that's okay. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and maybe somebody read it. And so I literally did that 10 years. Just anything I could get, just just do it.
And then obviously the Wine Advocate position becomes available, and you reach out for it. So tell me about starting there. You're hired on as a writer. What are you asked to do to start with? What did you have to do?
It was a little unclear. It was a little crazy. Oh, gosh. I think I was originally hired to do like an education portion of the website and to review like value wines from other countries, because we have reviewers who do whole countries. So they don't have time really to talk about like, what's the $30 bottle like, so that I think was the original plan, and then it ended up, I didn't like get a region for a while, and so coming from the Somm world, it's like, let's go, chef, sense of urgency. So I came in blasting, like, I'll do whatever you need. And so I ended up helping to run events, and I sommed for events. I did the Michelin star release in New York one year. I ran the whole Somm team. It was amazing. Like, John Reagan and his team came and helped. It was just crazy stuff like that, where you're in New York and they're dropping pallets in the street and it's raining and you're like, oh my God, we only have one hotel cart to get all these upstairs and it's 4 o'clock, that crazy life. So I did that for probably like the first year. I was just running around doing whatever I could do to help. And then Oregon was my first little region, and I love it. I love it so much. I love Oregon so much. I came up here and I was like, holy cow, it's so magical. There's ferns, and I swear that there's fairies, and it's just so pretty. The sky is very much like New Mexico. It's this big sky with big clouds and big sun and just green everywhere. Oh, it's so pretty, pretty, pretty. And I love the wines too, obviously, and the people. Everybody's so nice and just normal. I don't feel competitive like Napa. I just feel like everyone's just regular person, and that's what I like, just keep it normal. So yeah, and then from there, I guess Sonoma County, Central Coast, and now I've shifted. Now I'll do San Francisco and up. So it's pretty neat actually, because now that'll mean I've reviewed the entire United States West Coast from Los Angeles to Washington, which is that's pretty cool. I think as a young wine person, of course, you dream about rating places like France and Italy. Italian wine's my favorite. But at the end of the day, I live in Napa. And so I ended up becoming like an expert in the United States. So, and now I feel really proud about it. I feel really proud, and I think that we make some really awesome wine. Oregon does, California. God, our wine is so good. It's so good. And I feel really proud that I've been able to be part of that in some way. Because I think our wines need to, American wines, there's still this like weird sense, everyone, oh, American, it's just it's so weird. I'm like, yeah, but our wine's really good though. So.
It's the new world though. Nobody wants new world.
Get rid of those phrases, new world, old world. Goodbye. Yeah. European. Yeah. It's still that Eurocentric. Like we're the best and blah blah blah. And I get it, but also we make good wine here. So Australia makes great wine, and South Africa makes great wine. So again, democratization of wine, right? Just get people into wine. We don't have to. You don't have to be a wine snob or rich or whatever to enjoy wine, at all. And you shouldn't have to be. Everyone should have, wine is life. Everyone should have access to tasty stuff and not have to pay a lot of money for it. You want to pay a lot of money, you certainly can, but you shouldn't have to. And you shouldn't have to feel like pressured to be like that to enjoy wine, I don't think.
So let's talk about Oregon a little bit. Talk about your initial impressions of the wines and the people here. You mentioned, obviously, you're a big fan. Tell me about starting to meet people here, starting to understand the region, and what did you learn? What were you excited about when you first started to learn Oregon?
It was the coolest thing. The very first year, I did one of those big tastings where you sit in a room and like taste through 600 bottles.
That was here at Linfield, was it not?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Pretty sure we stored the wine for that in the archives.
It was a lot, right? It was a lot of wine, because when you first arrive, you're like, all right, give me whatever you want to give me. There were some not good things, and there were some good things, and it was really interesting, because this is all blind. I don't know anybody. I don't, no clue. I've never been here. And I picked out, this bottle and this one as being really, really great. And now I found out that it was all old vine stuff. It was super crazy. It was like Bethel Heights, Arterbury Marsh, and I'm like, what is this stuff? Goodfellow, they use a lot of old vine. And I just thought that was fascinating, because it was all blind. So there's something, there's no science, but experientially, there's something about it. And Oregon has really, it's just so cool that they have these little pockets of like very old vine material, different clones that you never get to taste, because the clones are totally different than in California. So that to me was like, wow, this is pretty neat. And then I think a year or two into it, I started noticing, oh man, these Chardonnays are really tasty, because coming from California and being a young wine person, you're like, ugh, Chardonnay, you know, ABC. Oh my God. And of course, I don't like Chardonnay. Oh, can't stand it. And then I got to Oregon, I was like, these are really tasty though. You know, these are really, really very good. And they've just gotten better and better and better, and they're so tasty and so good. And I really, really, really love the Chardonnay here. It's really changed my, what a snob that I was. What a silly, so silly snob. Yeah. Yeah, so no, I think the Chardonnay here is so good. I love what's happening with the Burgundy connection, like all that. And that's what's cool about Oregon too, is that people are not, again, they don't have that competitive thing. They all talk to each other. They all learn from each other back and forth between Oregon and Burgundy. It's such an open dialogue. I think it's really, really special, because California may not be like that so much, and certainly not in Napa, right? I don't think so. It's just different. It's just a different thing. Up here, it's more laid back, and it's just easy, you know.
How do you approach a tasting like that when you're tasting that many wines in that amount of time? How do you keep it fresh?
I take frequent breaks. I try to eat like something fatty between like sets, if you will. Like I try to like give myself, all right, from 9 to 11, you're gonna do a set of 25, right? And then I'm gonna go and take a walk. I'm gonna eat a piece of bread and cheese and chug some water, because you really gotta stay hydrated. That's the worst part. It's so hard to stay hydrated. And then I'll go back and do another set, and so on and so forth, sort of throughout the day. So I'm not like taking an official lunch or anything, but I'm just trying to make it so I'm not just sitting there the whole time. Just get up, move around, do your thing, eat a little bit. I've learned that I bring hydration tablets on the road with me all the time, because I get so like drained and dehydrated. So I have to have my little hydration tablets. I have my special prescription toothpaste for those days, because my poor little teeth are like ready to fall out at the end of the day. So I got my special mouthwash, my toothpaste. I bring my huge bag around with me everywhere I go, because I have my computer. I have my little kit of like toothbrush, toothpaste, this, that, lotion, all the things you need, because I'm out from 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. So I have my little like travel bag of stuff, and yeah, just learn to like, all right, bring a protein bar in case something happens and you can't eat, and bring your toothbrush, and I have alkaline mouthwash on the way home, because if you taste a lot of red, you don't want purple teeth driving home, right? So because you're not swallowing, but regardless, you don't want to. That's not good. So yeah, you just have to be careful and thoughtful, and really take care of yourself too, because it's very tiring on your body, actually. I mean, it sounds quite glamorous, but it's just like Psalms, right? Like, what do you do as a Psalm 80% of the time? You lug boxes around. And wine tasting, it's the same. Like, you just get tired, you get tired and exhausted, and if you have a run of 25 that are really like not good, and that's not so fun, and yeah. But luckily, we've come around as a company to sort of thinking more about curation rather than quantity, because Bob was able to go around and do everything on his own. I don't know how. I do not know how, but the world of wine is so big now, and there's so many wineries in a given region that it's just impossible. A comprehensive tasting is impossible. So now, instead of doing these big tastings, and I don't do that anymore. I don't work with any winery associations or anything. I just plan it all myself, and I choose where I want to visit. So I'll choose some new places that people have recommended, some bigger places, some smaller places, just trying to see what I think is the best that I can give as my curation of Oregon, right? Here's what I think are the best wines of Oregon. This is the best Chardonnay. This is the best Pinot Noir. It's all my opinion, right? It's just my opinion. That's it. But it's really fun, you know, to just like, hey, you're gonna love this Arterberry Marsh. Like, oh, it's so good, you know. I love to, as a som and a Southern girl, I like, you know, if I can get you with a bottle that you like, I really don't care what you want to drink at all. Could care less. But it makes me happy to be able to get you with that bottle. Like I like to be able to see if I can read them. What do they like? What are they looking for? What do they want to spend? That makes me really happy. Actually, oh my God, I have a cool story. You want to hear a cool story? So when I worked at Geronimo, that fancy restaurant, with the movie business is really big in Santa Fe. So many movie stars that I waited on. And one time, Channing Tatum, is that his name? That guy? That guy? I didn't know who he was, right? I don't know, because I don't really care or watch TV. But he was there with a girl, a wife or whatever, I don't know. And anyway, they asked for help with the wine. So I went over and he said, look, we don't know a lot about wine. We don't want to spend a ton of money. And okay, well, what do you like? Will it like a dry red? Okay, cool. So I gave him a bottle of Malbec, which I thought, you know, they're going to like that, right? Don't you think? And at the end of the dinner, they called me back over and they said, we just wanted to tell you that we really liked the wine and it was so nice because you didn't make us feel stupid, you didn't make us feel bad or try to upsell us or anything like that, and we enjoyed our night so much and our wine so much, and it made me feel so good. I was like, yes, this is what it's about, right? Because they learned, maybe they had never had a Malbec, right? I mean, it's just so cool when you're able to give somebody a good experience, because you know how that feels when you're on the other side of the table. You know, somebody like catering to you like that, so amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. That was like a cool thing that I always, you know, like, it's cool that they took the time to tell me that it was a good experience for them.
That's amazing. I love that.
All kinds of movie stars. Tommy Lee Jones used to come in all the time, and with his entourage of people, and they would come in early, and we made green chili margaritas, and he'd come in at like 4 o'clock and order 8 green chili margaritas. I'm like, you're running around. But then he was so nice, you know, yeah.
I'm trying to picture Tommy Lee Jones's entourage. It must be something.
I always envisioned them as a bunch of pirates, because I felt like, well, because I don't know. I recall him having enormous hands, and I recall him and his entourage just cussing up a storm and, you know, just like totally like pirate type of people. They were so nice and cool, but I was like, dude, with your green chili margaritas, oh my God, come on. I'm not ready. But they were so nice, yeah. It's all kinds of crazy celebrities, celebrity stories.
That's awesome.
It was fun, because I don't really know who all these people are. When I first moved to New Mexico, I was working at this little tiny shop in Poake? No. Anyway, there was a man in a baseball cap, and I was waiting on him. I don't know the difference of anything. And then somebody finally said, don't you know who that is? And I said, no. And they said, it's Robert Redford. And I said, well, I don't know who that is. Why would I know? So I had to go look it up, you know, but he lives there and he's very nice. And that was like one of the first people I waited on. I was like 19 or 20 or whatever. I definitely wasn't able to drink alcohol by that point. So, but yeah, all kinds of fun people that you get to meet. And yeah, it's a game of characters, right? Mm-hmm. Being in this business, being in restaurants, being in wine is a game of characters. I love characters. I love it.
Back up to something you were talking about when you were talking about the way you're reviewing now, of sort of choosing where you want to go, setting up your itinerary. So tell me about discovering. How do you discover new places? How do you decide, of all the new projects, which ones you're going to visit?
I let winemakers tell me. They will always let me know. It's very interesting because they'll have a friend, or you know what I mean? Like winemakers will, oh, have you tried XYZ? Stuff. Well, no, I haven't. Or, oh, I have a friend who does this thing. Oh, okay. So that's how I find a lot of stuff, is that winemakers are always, they're keyed in to what's new and what's happening. And they seem to mention it. So I'll take a note. And when I get home, I'm like, yoink, 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 yoink. And I pull out the ones that I've never heard of, and I do a little bit of research. And as long as it seems like it could be interesting for our audience, then I'll go. You know, I'm visiting some new places this time, because you don't want to go to the same place all the time. Right, like you want to like be there in person, but you've got to give the chance to some smaller people. So yeah, usually people will tell me what's up. If you keep your ears open, people know.
How do you approach reviewing a wine that you don't like?
I don't really believe in writing mean things. I think it's ugly. It's just not me. It's not who I am. So if I don't like it, it doesn't matter if I like it, okay? I'm just trying to describe it to you. And I'm gonna put an objective quality number on it. The whole thing, if you think about wine criticism, you have to take a philosophical leap in the beginning that there is such a thing as objective quality. Okay, so this is like, everyone wants to argue about that. Well, obviously we're human. I'm gonna be as objective as possible, but I'm a human being. But whether or not I like it, it really doesn't matter. I want to describe the style to you. It's like a psalm on paper, right? I just want to describe the style to you, and you should be able to tell whether or not you're gonna like it. That's it, at the end of the day. That's all that it is. It doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't matter if it's like 87, 89, whatever. It's just it's just, we're trying to put a number on it, which is a crazy thing. But to me, it's more about describing it accurately, and that somebody can read my note and say, oh, I think I'm really gonna like that wine, or oh, no, I'm not. You know, if it has Brettanomyces, make sure to say like, hey, saddle leather, right? I'm not trying to put anyone down, but I need to make it clear to people that, hey, this is a little funky, you know? Or maybe I'll say, hey, something's wrong with this bottle, I don't recommend it. Or if it's like a bad bottle within a really good batch, I'll maybe leave that out because that doesn't seem representative, because sometimes you get a bad bottle, right? So, yeah, to me it's just more about describing that wine and trying to put my number on it. But like I said earlier, I do not care what anybody wants to drink. Drink whatever you want. But if I can help you get there, that's really cool, right?
So you talked about one of the things you've seen in Oregon, obviously, is the rise in Chardonnay and your personal enthusiasm about Chardonnay. What else are you seeing in Oregon as a trend right now, and what do you sort of see as you look ahead for the state's industry?
It's a really great question. It feels so youthful here. Like there's so much space, you know. Napa's so built up already. There's not room for anything. There's not room to make changes like that. God, it's a really great question. I mean, the Chardonnay thing is huge for me. You know what's really good up here is Gamay. Gamay is so tasty up here, really. Very, very tasty. I've really enjoyed those wines. I think people are kind of setting themselves apart stylistically. It seems like maybe it was all about Pinot, for all this time, but now it's more like what style of Pinot, right? There's gonna be your lighter, brighter, you know, less ripe, higher acid styles. There's going to be styles that are a little heavier and with oak. So I think it's more about style at this point, and also vintage. Everyone thinks the New World, see, get rid of that. Everyone thinks that the United States has no vintage, but it most certainly does. Vintage is huge and becoming bigger as we're having these heat waves and fires and stuff. So vintage is really huge too. I really like to think about what happened in the season and what did that produce in the glass, making that connection, I think. So that's really important as well in terms of thinking about where Oregon's going. Vintage is important, style is important. I think it's amazing that Oregon's so synonymous with Pinot at this point. That's a huge success. But I hope that people will see that there is more here on offer. You know, we're going away from Pinot Gris to Chardonnay to maybe, I don't know how many other people are doing other grapes, but there's some cool little things happening, but it's still so young. It's a young area, which is really neat because that means you're only going to go up from here.
You've compared a little bit with other parts you've reviewed. I'm curious, having reviewed Washington, Oregon, all parts of California, where does Oregon sort of sit in your mind, and I guess nationally? What is Oregon's sort of reputation as you see it?
Does Oregon have a reputation among people in our country? I do not know. I mean, other than with Pinot. For me, I think there's so much potential. It's huge. The potential is huge. It's like, I feel like I'm on the ground at the beginning of something like really cool and really big. I don't know the awareness of people in California, of Oregon. I don't know if there is that much awareness, honestly. But I think the Willamette Valley is one of our country's best wine regions, period. Like, and it's only going to get better from here. It's just the opportunity is so huge. I mean, think about it. People are only just now like, oh, I think this spot of land is really good, right? I mean, that's it's so open. It's brand new. It's like the Wild West. There's so much here that people could do and explore. There's tons of space. I mean, there's a lot that people could do, but I don't know if it has a reputation in California. It actually, I was talking to Christopher Herman at 00 Wines, and he was saying, because they have a Burgundy project and a Champagne project in addition to the Oregon project, and he was telling me that when they're in Europe, people are very excited about their wines over there because it's all this Grand Cru. They have access to like really cool stuff in both regions. And so people actually hear about that and they come over and they want to taste those wines, and then they learn about Oregon. So they actually don't come to their European projects via the United States. It's the opposite direction. So that was very interesting to me. I hadn't thought about that before. That, you know, people in Europe learn about Oregon because they're over there tasting Burgundy. It's like wild, right? It's pretty cool, but yeah.
So you've talked a little bit in this interview about some of the issues the wine industry is facing right now. I'm curious, what are the biggest issues, and what have you seen in terms of change or progress?
Biggest issues, sexism, obviously, that's huge. Snobbery, that's a problem, probably still. For me, I guess as a woman, it's mostly been about like, can we get some women and some people of color and some young people here? Gosh, it's so male. It's all old white guys. Sorry, but it's all old white guys. I think we did a poll at the Wine Advocate, and that's like 95% of our audience. But guess what? Like that, how long is that gonna go? And who's doing anything to get young people into wine? Who? I can't see anybody. It's unbelievable, really. Like there's no like catering to young people. There's no marketing to young people. And people say, well, you know, they're not going to drink wine. They don't want to spend this money, blah, blah, blah. So we were kind of, as a group, thinking about, you know, who is our audience? Who do we want our audience to be? And I think it's probably people like me. It's like, you know, I just turned 40. It's people who are, you know, millennials who are coming into their own, like the guy who just got his own, you know, doctor's office, or the guy who just became partner at the law firm. People who are interested to explore, and that's also fine wine. That's different than other things, but you know, we have to find who's going to be the next drinkers. And some people say, oh, well, there's always going to be, you know, rich people to drink wine. Well, I don't know. I don't know. We just need to make it a more open and inclusive thing. It doesn't need to be snobby. You know, just let people in. Let people in. That's all. And make them feel welcome. I don't think young people feel welcomed into wine. Do you? I don't think so. I don't see anything.
These two do, but
right?
Maybe not in general.
I mean, is anybody catering? Is anybody marketing to you guys? No. Exactly, no. So what are we doing here? You're leaving like so much on the table. And also with women, I'm sorry, if you think you're not gonna market to women, you are leaving it all on the table. You know, I mean, that is ridiculous to me. Someone told me, well, we don't need to market to women because that's not our audience. Well, seriously? Like, but it should be, right? Why does it mean women can't be part of the audience. Why does that mean young people can't be part of the audience just because they're not now? Well, does that mean our industry is just being super lazy, you know, or maybe prejudiced, or maybe ageist, or maybe sexist? You know, this is a problem. Where are we going from here? I don't know. I know there's a lot of opinions about that, and some people think it's nothing, no problem. I think we need to put more work in for that, 100%. Because listen, spirits and beer are crushing us. They're crushing wine. Young people are gonna drink that stuff. You know, why would they drink wine when they don't feel welcome and they don't see a commercial about it or they don't hear anything about it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you think, if you haven't done any outreach or any marketing to this group, why in the world would they choose wine over spirits or beer? Because guess what? They're getting more bang for their buck with liquor, right? And beer, you know, that's easy. So, yeah, this is a big problem. We've been lazy as an industry, I think. Yeah. A little lazy, a little elitist, maybe.
It's a good combination.
Maybe.
So tell me about, from your role, how you approach something like that. You see the issues like that, and obviously you have a fairly large voice in the wine industry. Tell me about how you use it, or how you want to use it.
I just want to use it to bring enthusiasm to people, and hopefully, I say all the time, like, oh my God, I'm not doing brain surgery, you know, like, the midlife crisis of like, oh my God, what am I doing? It doesn't matter at all. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, it's a little strange because our audience is a fine wine audience, and I think the level of knowledge is a bit higher to begin with. So it's not the same as writing for the Chronicle maybe, or a larger publication, in which you would really need to define your terms and stuff like that. So I do take joy in writing a little more, like a little deeper on the knowledge side, assuming that people know that, just our audience. So I hope that's not off-putting to young people, but I try to make it pretty clear I don't want to be like super highbrow and super technical. That's not very helpful. But I also don't want to write down to anyone either. And I want, I just want to make my opinions clear. I want people to feel excited and enthusiastic about wine. I use a lot of exclamation points. It's my favorite thing. That's how you know I like a wine. So. Exclamation point. Yeah, I just want people to feel excited and enthusiastic. And I don't know, I have a conception in my mind that nobody reads anything that I write. So I don't get like a lot of feedback, and then the feedback you get is not usually positive. So yeah, that's like a personal struggle for me. Oh my God, what am I doing? Is this meaningless? But people always say, well, but you're bringing joy. So I hope it brings joy and enthusiasm, and I hope people can read it and it makes sense. I hope it's exciting. But at the end of the day, it's tasting notes, right? So I'm trying lately to incorporate like more context in a tasting note. And what I like to do that I don't see really other critics doing, which I find so strange, is bringing the story of that person. Like, I love to quote people, because I have the greatest conversations with people all the time. And it's so inspiring. And so I like to include those voices in my writing. That's something that I don't understand why people don't do it. I guess it's like, oh, well, you're the expert. You're supposed to be the expert. Okay, fine, but do they really want to hear from me all the time? I don't want to hear from me all the time. I want to hear from cool people that I get to meet. Basically, I have a level of access that's huge. So if I could give that to other people, that's so cool. I want them to get a sense of like who someone is and what they think about something. It shouldn't just be my voice, and it shouldn't be all me, and I, right? I don't like that. So if I can include, like, I like to tell the stories of those people, and that to me is what's most exciting. Just like with the chefs, right? That I used to write about. It's more about their story. Like, who are you? Why do you do what you do? Why do you like to make wine that way? I like to bring those pieces to the writing.
So I'm curious about, you mentioned already a shift in how you review wine. You talked about that from sort of quantity to more of a, I don't want to say quality necessarily, but more selective. Tell me about the future of wine criticism, wine journalism. What do you see for yourself specifically and for on a more general level? Do you see it shifting, and if so, how?
I think we have seen it shift. It's very democratic now at this point. Anybody can have a voice, right? Anybody can have a voice, which can be awesome and problematic maybe, right? But I think that element of democratizing wine is great, that anybody can have that voice. I think it's awesome. I don't know, I don't see myself as like super special in that way. Anybody can talk about wine. Right? That's again, like I want to bring the stories and the access. Anybody can say anything they want about wine, but that's boring ultimately, right? Wine is what it is. You can either be writing about it and teaching in that way, or analyzing it on a bigger, highbrow sort of way. But I like to tell those stories because that's fascinating. That people I think will continue to be engaged with stories as we move forward. And there's, a cacophony of so many voices. Journalism is hard. I worry about it all the time. I don't know how long it will last, how long you can make a living doing it. I do not know. Because everyone can have a voice. There's so much information out there. Nobody needs a wine expert. Who needs a wine expert? I don't know. In my mind, nobody needs that, but because you can get it, you can find out everything you want. Everything's right there on the internet. But what can they not get? Access. And the stories of these people, right? So that to me is like where I see myself going. I hope that in the future we can hear more young voices and women's voices, always. Because I feel, look at all the men in this business. Who are the big people? They're all older white guys, right? Why does that have to be the face of wine or of wine criticism? I just hope that as a whole, our industry can celebrate other voices and acknowledge other voices. That's what I hope. As to writing and business, that's hard. I don't know. The internet and there's no print publication anymore. It's hard. Being a writer and making money at it, I don't know. It's so hard. And honestly, I just got really lucky, right? So in terms of making a living at it, I don't know. In terms of where journalism's gonna go, I don't know. But I hope that it looks a little different. I hope that it looks more open. I hope there's more women and younger voices, and maybe people want to bring into wine writing more context and more stories rather than just the highbrow, this is the vintage and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It could be broader. It could be a little bit, more, it could bring in more, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I worry about it. I do worry about the future of wine writing. Just, will it be around? Will it be relevant? I sure hope so, but who knows?
So with that all said, tell me about what's the future for you. What are you looking ahead to? What have you not done that you want to do? And I guess what are you seeing on the horizon?
I'm in a weird space. As I said, I just turned 40. Crazy. And I'm in this weird space where I'm doing what I really enjoy. I don't want to get out of it at all. And like I said, I like to climb and I like to have always a challenge. So right now that's the Master in Wine program, but I don't know what comes after that. I really don't. It's a little like standing at the edge of the cliff and it's like black hole. At the bottom I feel a little like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with my life, right? I don't know, honestly. I'm in a weird space as an individual. Okay, what comes next? I have no idea, honestly. The only other thing I've ever thought about doing is journalism, like real journalism, investigative journalism. But how do you get into that? That's then you're at the bottom again, and so I don't know. I don't have any reason that I want to get out of the wine industry at all, but yeah, I really don't know That's a question I don't have an answer to yet. Sorry.
That's a very honest answer. I appreciate it.
I wish I knew. I wish I had a plan, but I don't. I'm just focused now on the Master Wine and doing my best at work, and that's my goal right now. And then after that, it's like, because I've been taking tests and doing this stuff for so long. What do you do after?
That's fair.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I'm at that midway point in life where you're like, I'm getting old. I have to make a living. But I have my dream, and I want to live my dream, and I actually achieve my dream. What happens now? It's an abyss. I do not know. I do not know the answer. It's always percolating in here. Yeah. I don't know, other people in life feel that way, right? I mean, I think we all go through that at some point, right? Before you're going to go to college, you have that. After college, what in the world am I going to do now? You know, I mean, it's scary. It's crazy. I have no idea. So all I know is that just be prepared, right? Like someone used to tell me that opportunities are like taxis that are painted black. As long as you're on the lookout, you're going to see them. And if you're ready, you can jump on that. So, you know, I want to stay educated, stay prepared, keep my skill levels up, keep my excitement up. I think it's so sad to see people in this business who are jaded, and you definitely see that. Man, we are not making millions of dollars, so if you're unhappy in this business, why? Why be in the business, right? I think most of us are in wine to be happy and feel good.
Last question for you, I promise, last question. I mean, we can keep going if you want, but what are you proudest of so far? What do you consider your best achievement or happiest achievement?
Becoming a wine writer full time. Yeah, like I said, since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a writer. It's always been my dream. I have a compulsion over writing. If I wasn't doing what I am doing now, I would still be writing in my journal like a crazy maniac. I have to pinch myself all the time. Like, whoa, man, this is my day today. I get to drive around and go see this guy and this girl and go taste these wines, and it's gorgeous up here. You know, I love the amount of freedom that I have creatively. I get to set my schedule. It's a lot of responsibility, but I love that freedom, and I love that I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. And that's part of being lost, right? Well, that was my dream. This was my dream, and I was lucky enough to get it. So what happens next? I don't know. What's the next dream? I got to figure that out. I don't know what the next dream is. And I think about it all the time. Like, I'm so lucky. Like, I did it. I gave up a lot to come to Napa and do it. But I knew I would regret it if I didn't try. You know, if I didn't at least try, even if you fail, you knew you tried. So I got lucky and I made it, knock on wood. So I'm really proud. And I'm proud to be a woman and a young person. Young. No, I'm proud to be a young person. And people tell me a lot, they're like, yeah, but, because I'm like, I'm not doing anything to change the world and make it a better place. And like, yeah, but you set an example for other people, other women, other young women who want to do things and hopefully inspire those people. And that's really meaningful to me. I would love that if that's true. That people could look and say, well, she doesn't come from wine and she's not rich, and you know, how did she do that, right? Like, yeah, you can do it too. You just work hard and don't give up. Work hard, don't give up on your dream. Go after your dream. Even if you fail, at least you tried, because otherwise you're going to have that regret and that nagging of like, I could have. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have regrets. I want to, if I have a dream, I'm going to go for it. And that's, you know. So I hope that other young ladies can say, well, Erin did it. You know, she didn't come from anything, and Erin did it, so I can too, right? I think that would be really, really cool. If anybody, like even one person could be inspired to like, well, she did it, so I can do it. Like, yeah, that would be really amazing. That would make me the most proud.
Fantastic. all the questions that I have.
Yeah?
Anything we didn't cover that we should have covered? Anything I didn't ask that I should have asked?
I don't think so. I'm not used to talking about myself so long.
Weird, right?
I'm always on the other side of the table.
Thank you so much for doing it. We do appreciate it. Thanks for coming to join us. Welcome back.
Thank you for being patient.
Well, thank you. We'll let you out.